Hey everyone, Kaylee Jean here with Falcons and Pentacles Tarot, and today I wanted to make a quick video on a subject that I've been thinking about for quite a while. And I was thinking about it more because we do have the solar eclipse tonight, and we have we're going into eclipse season in 2018, so I've been kind of setting intentions and planning some rituals that I'm going to be doing, and I just thought it would be fun to talk about the topic of living a magical lifestyle, but looking specifically at ways in which we may already be living a magical lifestyle and how to sort of recognize that. Because there's a lot of ways to live intentionally, which is really what my definition of a magical lifestyle is kind of having a clear intention about recognizing your intuition, recognizing synchronicities and signs, working with energies that are available to you, consciously taking responsibility for your life and choosing to create it using the tools that you have, both spiritually and in practical terms as well. So for me, that's really like the definition of a magical life. But, we're all kind of aware of crystals, at least to some extent. And we all know that we can do rituals, or we can work with cards, or we can explore astrology and do all these things that feel magical and are very real ways to connect with energy. But for me, this thought has just been coming back to me about like the things that are already in my life and that were in my life before I started sort of like what you could call my spiritual journey, my journey with spirituality. There's already been a lot of things that were very magical that were already kind of part of who I was, and I really like bringing awareness to that and remembering that there's more ways to live intentionally and to live a magical lifestyle than just the ones that we're already kind of aware of or conscious of on a regular basis. So the first one that I would say is really magical and a really amazing way to live a magical life is to go outside more often. I love going outside. Going outside kind of connects you to the earth. It connects you to the cycles, whatever season it is where you live. All of these things are going to connect you to just the energies that are surrounding you. So going for a walk out in nature, sometimes just being outside, just the simple fact that there's no roof over my head, I feel more connected to the universe in a way, and that might sound silly, but just that feeling of being able to just look up at the sky and know that you're looking at this kind of endless space above you is just kind of amazing. So these are simple things, but going outside, getting grounded, being barefoot is also really healthy. All of these things really connect you to positive energies, and those can help you to relax, to feel more peaceful, to feel more calm. And I use that on a regular basis to live a magical life, is just get myself outside if I'm ever feeling like I'm too connected to like mundane things or my schedule or whatever. Going outside is something that I will use very often to live a more magical life. Number 2, I would say, is saying grace before you have a meal. So this may not be a practice that everybody is in the habit of, but it is a very magical thing to do, to put a blessing into your food before you eat it. And it doesn't take long to do. You can say it out loud, which tends to, in my experience, make it feel more powerful and to create a more significant and solidified blessing. But you can also just do it in your mind. Putting a blessing on your meal is something that doesn't take very long. It's totally free, and it really helps to put more intention into your meal. So you can set the intention that you're saying thank you for the meal that's being given to you by the earth, and you can put the intention that the energy that you get from the food that you're going to eat is going to support you in being your best self, and it's going to support you in having the best energy that you can possibly have, and it's going to maybe support your body in healing if your body has any healing processes to go through. So that's one way that you can live a more magical life. It's a very simple tip, but it will, if you do it regularly, every time you eat something, if you say a quick blessing on your food or before you are about to consume it, it really does infuse more intention into the whole process of nourishing yourself. And you may start to feel more energy, and you may start to feel more clarity, and you may also start to become more sensitive to different foods and recognizing which foods really respond to the blessing, or which foods really sort of take on the energy that you're intending to put into them, and therefore make you feel a lot better after you eat. So that's one way that you can live a magical life, and it's very, very simple. You don't have to go and buy a crystal, or you don't have to do anything for that. It's just say a blessing. The third tip that I would say for living a magical life that maybe many of us are doing, but we're not really aware that we're doing it, is having family heirlooms around. And especially if you have a family that there's individuals, maybe they might be passed on, or there could be people who are older in your family who may have antiques or things from previous generations. If you feel like there's people in your family who have good vibes and who you respect and who are people that have at least some qualities that you would aspire to, or they hold some kind of wisdom that you find to be helpful or attractive to you in some way, like as in something that you would want for yourself, having heirlooms and antiques from your family lineage is a very magical thing. I personally believe that objects hold energy, and that some objects may hold more energy than others. And so having things like a photo album of old pictures from, the last several generations of your family, that's actually a really powerful thing, especially, like I said, if you have people in your family who you respect or who did powerful, courageous things, if they lived through a famine, or if they survived a war, or if they did something that was really difficult and they overcame some kind of huge struggle, those heirlooms that you have from that person, or those pictures that you have of that person who went through that, they hold a particular charge for you, and they hold a reminder of your strength and a reminder of your potential. One thing that I would also suggest as far as living a magical life is the idea of paying attention to your body's cycles and rhythms. For myself, because I am somebody who experiences a menstrual cycle, I like to keep track of my physical cycles using fertility awareness, the fertility awareness method. And that's really just a way for me to, these are my charts that I use to keep track of everything. And it looks a little scary because there's a lot of numbers and stuff on there, but it's actually really, really simple and easy to do. And I like to do this because it helps me stay in touch with where my body is at any given point and how much energy I have and where I'm at hormonally. It gives me the ability to be a lot more compassionate with myself, because if I know, for example, that I tend to have lower energy during a specific time in my cycle, then I just plan to not do as much work those days. Or if I have the opportunity to go on a trip, I will try and work the trip around when I know I'm going to be at different phases in my cycle, so that I can optimize my energy and really put my creative energy and efforts out at the right times in my cycle and be able to utilize that freely and get a lot done. And then when I'm in the more kind of passive phases of my cycle, I can hopefully kind of pare down my schedule a little bit and not have to be quite as active with social things, for example, or kind of out and about. So it also helps me stay connected to the moon, because I like to pay attention to where I'm at during my cycle versus where the moon is in its moon phases. So there's a lot of really beautiful things that come when you are paying attention to your body's natural rhythm. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't have a menstrual cycle, you're still a cyclic being. You still go through different periods and sort of cyclic processes of nature. So you may have to pay attention to this in terms of more subtle energies and more subtle things that could be affecting you, that give you the clues to where you're at in terms of your energy and how it's ebbing and flowing. But overall, I would say everybody is a cyclic creature because we live in sort of a natural world that has a rhythm to it. So you can find your own rhythm with that and gradually sort of get to know yourself as a cyclic being, even if you don't have a menstrual cycle. My fifth tip for living a magical life, which you may already be doing and not aware that it is magical, is living with a dog or a cat or some kind of pet. I feel like pets have such an ability to bring magical energy into your life, and particularly for me, in my personal experience, I feel like living with a dog has really changed the energy of my life. My dog brings such a protective energy into my life, and I feel like she's very in touch with subtle things that I might not be picking up on. And she's got a very strong kind of point of attraction, I would say. Like because she feels very connected to me and she feels very connected just to our family, she's got this sort of attitude that she takes towards life that I feel like it kind of adds to our ability to manifest positive experiences, because she's just very keyed into what's best for us, or she's very keyed into things that would be beneficial. And I guess it's like hard to put that into words, but I feel like having her around is very protective. And she's not an attack dog or anything like that, but it's just her energy. It's just her energy. And a lot of ancient cultures have actually prized dogs for just their protective aspects. I mean, you can look into, in Celtic folklore, for example, there's the concept of Dormarth, which is the doorway between worlds that you sort of pass through when you're dying, or when you're astral projecting, or when you're entering the spirit world of some kind. And there's a myth that there's a dog, that there's two dogs that meet you at Dormarth, and they protect you while you're traveling in the spirit world, or they kind of help you transition into the spirit world. And that's just one of many ancient myths that talks about dogs showing up to help people who are crossing dimensions or who are going through difficult transitions. And I feel like it's the same when we are actually alive in the physical, that dogs really do help us go through transitions. They help us go through changes. And it's the same with cats. Cats are very psychic. Cats are very in touch with subtle energies. They kind of have an almost owl-like wisdom to them, at least in my perspective. And so, yeah, just any pets that you live with, you can start to live a more magical life just by consciously recognizing the energies, like the subtle energies that your pets bring into your home, and how they may actually be beneficially affecting you, energetically speaking, by their own point of attraction and their own desire for your well-being and their own desire for you to be protected. Another thing that I would mention as a tip for living a magical life would be using fermentation. I love to ferment foods. It's something that I have done for years, and it's something that is just really fun. It's fun to create something and then wait the fermentation period for it to be finished. So I have a couple things that I will show. So one of these is apple cider vinegar that we made from apples at the property that we used to live at. So there's just something fun about making vinegar, and making it out of apple juice is so easy. So that's been really fun, and it's also been something fun to give away as gifts. I also make sauerkraut. So here's a jar of sauerkraut that I'm making right now. I actually put a little bit too much brine in this one, but I know it's going to be really good anyway. I would say that fermentation is a magical practice because in sort of ancient times, first of all, it's one of the original cooking techniques, and it's one of the ways that you can preserve food. So people used it to preserve food before they had refrigerators and things like that. And fermentation is a magical process because people kind of believed that there were like spirits that would come in and ferment the food. If they were making kimchi, for example, in Korea, they believe that there's some kind of spirit energy that would come in and help the kimchi become really good and delicious over time. So they would pray over it, they would do blessings, and they would set the intention that it was going to be a really healing food. And for many people, fermented foods are very healing because of the probiotics. So probiotics would be kind of like the modern scientific approach to explaining what people in the past would have called like a magical process. And it really is alive. Probiotics are bacteria that are really good for your gut. And they, when you create sort of like a positive environment for them, as you do in fermentation, they tend to kind of colonize in acidic environments. So no bad bacteria grows in there over time, but really good bacteria will colonize. And then when you eat it, it's just very cleansing and healing for your gut. So that's one way that you can bring some magic into your kitchen, is by allowing sort of natural processes and maybe even your prayer and intention to help your fermentation kind of go along. Tip number 7 is be a consumer of arts and handicrafts. I believe this to be particularly true. I really love to buy handmade things. I love to have handmade things around me because I feel like when an artist is working on something, they're really kind of putting their essence into it, or they're sort of creating a personality that didn't maybe exist before. And just for example, I have a friend who makes these really adorable little figurines. They're made out of spun cotton, and they're so cute and lovable and sweet. And I just feel like this has such a personality to it. It has such a uplifting energy that the artist infused into it, and that she sort of breathed life into just some cotton balls and some little things that she put together, and now it has this sort of talismanic energy to it. If you're buying something that's handmade, or if you're buying something that somebody really put their own energy into it and infused a personality into it, it tends to sort of bring a very real and tangible positive energy to your space. And that's what I find with this little deer is I like to have it near me when I'm doing readings, or when I'm kind of just working in my workspace. It just has a very sweet, uplifting, joyful energy that I personally really believe comes through the object. So I love to have handmade things. I love to support local artists, and that's something that really brings more magic and kind of energy, more quirky energy into my life. The last tip that I would recommend for living a magical life, and you may already be doing this, is to keep a clean house and have fresh flowers around. I don't know anyone who doesn't feel better after cleaning their house and putting fresh flowers around. I mean, it's just something that really uplifts you. It's something that brings kind of living energy. I don't ever use fake flowers, although there's nothing wrong with using fake flowers, but I personally believe that I can feel like the vitality in a fresh bouquet of flowers, and I really like to put them in multiple vases around the house. I like to keep the house clear and uncluttered so that I have sort of like this free space to work with and something that feels very open and uplifted. When I do that, and when I'm very good about staying on top of that, there's no question about it, I do feel more supported, I feel more clear-headed, and I feel uplifted in my life. So I personally believe that keeping a clean house attracts really good energies to you, just like I believe that taking care of my body and wearing clothes that I like and doing things that are nice for myself and how I dress and how I present myself, I feel like if I do those things intentionally, then I call in really good energy to myself. Whereas when I am not taking as good of care of myself and I get really busy and I'm not as much into my self-care, I tend to sort of feel a little bit more heavy and not quite as positive. So I may not be as attracting as good of energies as when I know, okay, I'm really choosing what I want to wear today. I'm choosing how I want to express myself. I'm setting the intention for that, and I'm just really calling in better vibes when I do that. So it's the same with your house. It's the same with your appearance, taking care of yourself, taking care of your skin, taking care of your clothes, wearing clothes that you feel good in. All of that stuff really attracts good energy, as well as keeping your home clean and having fresh flowers if you'd like. That also brings in very high vibrations. So those are my 8 tips that I've been thinking about of how to live a magical life, even in ways that you may not consider to be sort of magical, like astrology or crystals or any of the other ways that we like to, think about setting intention and getting to know ourselves. We can also use very commonplace things like a family heirloom or a handmade, arts and crafts type of object, or spend some time with your dog or your cat. And paying attention to their subtle energy and the way that they are perceiving reality. These are really simple, grounded things that are very magical and that do bring us a lot of joy and do bring us a lot of uplifting energy that give us the opportunity to live a magical, very intentional lifestyle. So I hope that this has been fun and helpful for you guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of this eclipse season, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!